Hi guys, welcome to this week's Search in the City. Today we go all the way across to the other side of the planet to Melbourne, Australia to talk to the one and only Nik Ranger, the SEO specialist at a company called Webfirm. In this episode we get right into the weeds, into some really interesting technical stuff, and we really get to see an interesting side of Nik, hearing a little bit about philosophy and what she gets up to in her spare time. I had absolutely fantastic fun recording this episode, even although it was super early in the morning for me. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Let me know if you like it in the comments below. Hi Nik, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and excited to get into it.
Yeah, me too. Like, whereabouts in the world am I calling today?
You are calling to Melbourne. Outside me is Melbourne CBD. We are located in the heart of that, and welcome to Webfirm.
Oh, amazing. So what time is it where you are at the moment?
Currently it's 7:15 at night, so I think it's, for you, it's the start of your day, 8 o'clock. So
It is.
Yeah,
I've actually got
time
the old coffee is on the go to get me going. I've done the whole American Psycho thing with the ice thing under the eyes, so I didn't look too bad for this.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Before, my desk was absolutely littered with coffee cups, but yeah.
That's an awesome desk. I'd love to just get to know you a little bit and just to hear how you get into search in the first place, and what you're doing just now at Webfirm as well.
Yeah, I think my story is not all that unique to other people. I think, and I just kind of said that because I think everyone has their own weird way of entry into search. SEO is something that I found because I had a really good friend of mine who was a digital director of another company, Predictor, and upon coming back to Australia after doing a bit of a stint teaching music of all things, I used to work as in an engineer, and then I was working in accounts, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I don't really like either of those two professions, so what do I do? And she asked me, well, have you ever heard of search engine optimization? Like, absolutely not. And I Googled it, and I was like, okay. So you get organic traffic to a website, and there's all this googly gar in between that. I have no idea what that means, but I'll go to the interview, I'll do my best, and if they find me fit, I'm definitely able and willing. So it was about 4 years ago now, and now I am the SEO specialist for Webfirm, and despite the title, I head up the team here, and I set the process, I set the pace, and I have a fantastic team that I lean on for a lot of different support. But it's completely transformed my life in the way that I look at the world. It's a fantastic profession, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm so with you. The big thing for me is the community. I've never been part of any communities that just share so much stuff just for free as well, and everyone's completely transparent. Sadly, a bunch of people in the industry have died recently, but I see Kickstarters, not Kickstarters, GoFundMe's and things to help people out, and loads, there's a lot of love in the industry, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something to be very mindful of. The pressure that does come from a job that has so much uncertainty.
It's 8:15.
I think we're trying ultimately to look at very subtle algorithmic signals to be able to figure out how to do our job to the best of our ability. And with so much of that uncertainty and testing, and just this long timeline of not knowing when you'll see that kind of very direct result, I think leads to a lot of stress, and for some people that over time gets quite difficult. So yeah,
it does.
It's good to be mindful of, but yeah, it's nice to have a community of people that again are so willing and to share and to sort of commiserate with each other the the more difficult realities of the job.
Yeah, it's all part of the game, and that's the fun bit. So usually I love asking people what they do when they're not in work. But I usually ask that to the end. But let's get, just because we went over it. I see a lot of music stuff around your social and stuff like that. Like what's that?
Yeah, I am a bit of an odd weirdo. I am a professional electric violinist. I've been playing for about 21 years.
Jesus, 21 years.
It's been like a long life passion of mine, music, and that's So in my free time, I play in a band, and I also am a session musician, writes music for myself and for people, and perform it. And it's I think when you have that kind of steep learning curve, particularly in performance, that I think just it's got so many wonderful applications for life. It teaches you resilience, it teaches you fortitude, it teaches you to be able to think on one's feet, and it's just a wonderful way to share something beautiful with people.
Do you find that the skills you learned in music help with like client contact and pitching and stuff like that?
No. I mean, if I have, I don't think I've really thought too much about it, or it hasn't been very direct. I think maybe just, I've transitioned to now being a vocalist as well. And I think having to be in front of people and address maybe a crowd of people is a skill that maybe makes it a little bit easier for me to be able to go up and be an SEO speaker and talk about something I'm very passionate about. And I think just the confidence to be able to open my mouth and speak my mind is very much attributed to being a performer. So, if it's got the correlation there, then I think that's where it's from.
Oh, brilliant! I play blues guitar, and there's something called like guitar face. Is there such a thing as violin face?
It's where your chin kind of like smushes up, and you kind of like you walk like this most of the time. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'd love to see around your place. Can we get a tour of the office and stuff like Cribs style? Yeah,
100%. Hey dog, I heard you like desks. We've got all kinds of desks. We've got normal desks, we've got standing desks. We like to think that we're very good on having good ergonomic health in the office. So this is Webfirm. This is where we work. We have a wonderful team here. Usually there's a whole bunch of people here doing like lots of fantastic work. This is where the boss sits, kind of like presides over all of us to make sure that we're not.
Can you do me a massive favor? Can you do me a massive favor and sit in the boss's desk and put your feet up on the desk like you run the show?
Oh, it's probably the cleanest I've ever seen it.
He must have known.
Oh, there we go.
Dun dun dun! Amazing.
If you're watching this, Tristan, I'm being respectful. I promise, not moving anything too much.
Tristan, your time is numbered. There's a new big dog in town.
He does a good job. A very, very difficult but very good job. And of course, we also share our office with AdSlot, which is a media buying company. So they're just over there, and of course we've got the lovely breakout space. Am I pointing in the right direction? There is the kitchen in which we're able to cook a full, anything we like, which is really quite nice.
And we're in the kitchen now. One of the great things about Cribs is getting to see can we see the fridge? So I was doing one of these with a guy from New York the other day. And the treats that they have, I don't know if it's because he's American, were insane. What do you guys have?
We all of our treats maybe kind of they live down in this little corner here next to the coffee machine.
Oh my god, that coffee machine is amazing.
It is. When I first arrived here, I was just kind of looking for the coffee pods to be able to just quickly get my fix. But now, almost everyone here is very well trained baristas. So, if marketing doesn't turn out, we can get jobs to be able to pull coffees. But this is the fridge, and it's mainly filled with alcohol.
Love it.
Especially on a Friday. Like that's a nice way to sort of unwind and share a beverage or two with some colleagues. And of course, the non-drinkers here as well catered for. And then we have another fridge, so we can have all kinds of things there to cook our own meals, and which we absolutely do. We've got a full oven here and a stove top. So we sometimes do cooking classes and make food for each other, and it's just a really nice way to kind of like break up the day.
It's a huge selling point. Like, so imagine how would you describe the culture in your company then? It feels like it's kind of like work hard, play hard type stuff. I love that you've got a full kitchen. Like, to be fair, I wouldn't leave the office if I had a full kitchen. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I think Webfirm is a company I haven't really experienced before. Everyone here is like such good fast friends. Like I hang out with these guys on the weekends. We celebrate each other's birthdays. We go to music concerts together. We're just a very, very close-knit team, and I think it's just kind of the thing that they promote here. We've got like a social club, so I think every 2 weeks or every month they all get together and decide we've got a budget. How best are we going to enhance people's working experiences and be able to utilize a little bit of money to take everyone out for lunch or go and do rock climbing together or go for runs or whatever sort of in vogue with the team at the time. So yeah, it's just unlike any other experience I've had in a working environment. And I think when a company really invests in team dynamic and interpersonal relationships, I think that it can kind of allude to a higher purpose. What is it that we're ultimately trying to do? Yes, we're trying to make a business the best it can be and offer services that are second to none, 100%. But how are we going to enrich our life, every person's life? How are we going to give them tools to be able to be better at their jobs? How are we going to help them socially fit into a work culture, particularly if they're new or just the day-to-day kind of the grime. How are we going to help them? And I think that's one of the many reasons why it's just such a unique working culture. It's great. It's really, really quite lovely.
You can really see it's really interesting talking to you about that sort of stuff, because you can see how genuine you are about it and how it's quite inspiring listening to you actually. The culture thing is a big buzzword for a lot of businesses, and I think just walking in you can kind of feel it in the air in a lot of places. Yeah, that's really cool. And you're back at your desk now. Can we? I love seeing people's setups. I'm so nosy. I'm sorry. What hardware are you rocking to get your job done?
Well, the hardware I'm rocking is, of course, SEMrush is one of the primary tools that I use in conjunction with Ahref, with Screaming Frog, and a host of Chrome extensions that really, really help me out. It kind of really depends on the task at hand, but just on a day-to-day, those are the ones that I use the most. Of course, Google Analytics, Search Console, Tag Manager. I kind of think that they go without saying, but those third-party specialist tools, they're the ones that I use.
Cool. Is there any interesting kind of little hacks that you've got going on, or like tips for moving things forward? So we do a 4-day work week here, and because of that, it means that we need to really compound our time in a big way. So we do this thing where if a task takes an hour, but you do it every single day, I'll happily let someone sit for the week to automate that. And I know that sounds silly, but that across the entire agency actually saves a lot of time in the long run. Anything cool that you've been playing with or coming up with recently?
100%. Now, I'm not sure whether your team does this, I watched the SEO tip hack that you had on the webinar, which is phenomenal. If you guys haven't watched that, go and have a look, because there are some wonderful actual things that are in there, especially using Wayback Machine. There's an export function that if you haven't used it, will save you a whole heap of time. So here's something that I will impart with you and the viewers. In Screaming Frog, there is API linking, and that is so easy to be able to crawl all of the URLs that exist on the site, and you can be able to see majestic information, Ahref, Google Analytics, Google Search Console. And what you can do is you can get a crawl of all that information, export that out into like a Google Sheet, and then for each of the columns, like put conditional formatting on those, and like have different colors that sort of indicate certain very broad sweeping but like guidelines of okay, if it goes above like 60% bounce rate, like that's going to be in the reds. If it is like achieving like X amount of clicks, like higher or lower than our expectations, that's going to have its own color variation. And you do this across each of the different columns, and what you'll get is this very colorful, very visual map of your entire site that you can go through and pick out URL by URL where your least performing to your best performing is, as per the metrics for every single URL. So you can do that, but you can also do scheduling. Now, I have a schedule, so for some of our higher level clients, I'll do this like once a week, or I'll do this once every day, or I'll do it once a month, just depending on how like prescient it is, and that just saves me like a whole heap of time. So being able to access all that information, being able to see it color coded, because I'm a very visual person, is very quick to be able to see at a glance a story of all the micro moments that sort of lead up to like some of the larger things, like what kind of things that we need to do to optimize that particular URL, that landing page experience. So that is like one of the best hacks I can sort of suggest right now.
I absolutely love that. So let me get it straight. So you're pulling the export from Screaming Frog with all the API extensions in it, and then you've essentially got this kind of heat map of like where to optimize first, cut by the major problems. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. I might just pull it up and show you. Hang on. Sorry,
I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Have you used this before?
I've not got anything like that moving, but we definitely do lock down every single URL. Oh, I love that you've got the little SEMrush privacy thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just going to try and pull it up for you at the moment, just to show you. Why isn't it not happening? Yeah, okay, there we go.
What's your desktop background?
Oh, that is it's a painting of the wonderful woes that humanity will go and experience. So you've got someone that's sort of head on his desk, someone head on the brick wall, someone's like having some kind of trouble in the window, and it's just to say that humanity in itself are we're all told children trying to figure out what to do. I find that kind of nice and invigorating that someone like way back when was like, just a fun absurdity of life is just, something nice and humorous and keeping it light.
I love that. You're a bit of a philosopher. I really like. Did you study philosophy or anything like that, or has that just always been in you, like the way you think and the way you look at life?
I don't know. I like to like think about problems, and I'd like to think about like obviously how to solve them, but like how that sort of like evolves in oneself and how that relates to other people. And I think that kind of application like is fascinating to think about. Philosophy is by definition just the love of wisdom, and I think, you know, if you ask many questions and you have the keenness to be able to try and like you know, search for that answer, just to relate it maybe back to SEO, like, you know, that in itself is a terrific endeavor.
Love it, absolutely.
But yeah, I'll keep showing you, because I think this is so wildly awesome. So we've got Screaming Frog here. You've got a configuration down to API access. Then you've got Google Analytics, Search Console, Majestic Ahrefs, and Moz as well. All the, like, you can literally just pull up all the different columns, and then you can be able to put that into Google Sheets, and then that's where you can do that fantastic. You just like click on the column, go right click, scroll down to conditional formatting, and it will say like, okay, if you know, like between 1 or and 10, or like, you know, 10 and, or between 10 and 100, whatever you're trying to sort of find there, you can color code that. And that in itself is like a wonderful visual thing. I'd love to show you something, but I didn't really ask if I can like share data live. But yeah, maybe like if we want to like get into that a little bit more, I'd love to like sit down and like have like a whole like step-by-step process. But it is just so quick and so easy to be able to see URL by URL what's actually going on, and you know, that combines with doing segmented audiences using Google Analytics is like also a nice little hack for doing CRO in like later down the track.
I love that. This sounds like a weekly wisdom video waiting to happen. We'll need to get on to Anton, get him to set that up. That like, yeah. I love seeing that sort of stuff. So is that one of your major processes for onboarding your clients? Is that one of the first things you're kind of looking at? Is just like, let's have a look at all the URLs, website quality, where are the major areas we need to begin?
Yeah, I like to think that the strategy that we have is not like reactive, but it is anticipating what is coming next before it happens. A lot of the time, I think one of the reasons why a lot of clients come to us is they say like we would be telling them what the issues are, or we were seeing like a decrease in calls or form submissions, and we went back to them and said, well, you know, why is that so? And there was like a bit of a mad scramble, and a lot of that was to do with like they weren't doing like correct keyword targeting. My philosophy around that is keywords are a great way for discovery, and they're like hugely important, but they're not the full story. I think in Google Analytics there are so many micro moments that lead up to getting like that overarching thing of, oh, okay, I'm ranking for this keywords, maybe at X position on the first page, or not on the second page. You know, what are the kinds of things I need to, you know, work back from there? Or I'm experiencing this click-through rate, which for anyone who doesn't know, is just like clicks divided by impressions, and that gives you click-through rate. And that's sort of indicated as like a really important algorithmic signal. But there are so many things that if you look back, like it's a logical kind of thing that if you don't have the best landing page experience, if you don't have like a site that loads quite quickly, there are so many micro things that lead to a customer decision. So I like to ask those kinds of questions, and I like to see everything in its entirety to be able to really make decisions as to the kinds of things that I want to influence. And they might be very minor, they might be very, very large, like no indexing something completely, but everything has to have like that overarching story. How do all the team players, you know, win the game at the end of the day? So, or literally make those goals.
I love this. That you said micro moments quite a few times. Like, I really love that as a concept. Do you talk to your clients about these kind of micro moments? And like, I love the theory, like the butterfly effect of like butterfly flaps its wings like miles away. Then there's this kind of massive chain reaction of stuff. Do you talk to them in that way? And like, how do you usually frame and structure your kind of SEO conversations with clients? Is it very much like, I want to tell you about this technical thing I need to fix, or is it very much actually we just want to work out your business problems? Like, how do you have pretty technical conversations with them?
The way that I have conversations is it starts with the goals that we both agree. Like, these are the things that we're wanting to influence here. Like ideally, what are the things that will mean the most to your business? If you get more calls, if you get more emails, if you get more form submissions, or you get more like more people reading your content and making those subscriptions. Like, every business has its intended goal, and they're the kinds of things that bring the money that really builds a business. So I start there, and then I think, well, what kind of business is it? Like, what kind of things are the most important for this business to be able to achieve that? Are we doing well on the discovery? Are we doing well on the that conversion funnel? Are we doing well just site-wide? Like, is it human readable? Is it logical on how to find their products or services, or be able to find the key information that why someone's searching in the first place? And these are, again, like, these are the kinds of questions that I ask, and I try and figure out, well, I want them to know as much top-level information as they need to be able to help us to be able to answer those things. So a lot of the time I spend a considerable portion of my day writing out, well, this is what you want to do. These are the problems. These are why these problems exist. This is how they have implications if they want to know more information, but also this is how we're going to fix them, and this is the intended benefit. And of course, I love to like screenshot data and things like that. I'm not an account manager. I'm a purist when it comes to SEO, and I like to give people a lot of context and information, and make sure that they're not asking me at the end of the day, what did you actually end up doing? If someone's asking me that, then I haven't really done my job properly. If they don't know what we've done and why we're doing it, it's like everything has a great teachable moment to be able to pick out the why. And I think experience has taught me that if people understand that we have like that higher purpose, and we do want to be able to show that value, you have to give some context.
I absolutely love that. Like, when it comes to like kind of client conversations, it's kind of funny. Like, so I am an account manager. That's always been my thing. I started as a door-to-door salesman as a young man at like 13 years old. I was selling. Do you know what potpourri is?
Yeah.
I used to sell that door to door. Don't ask me why, but you know, the west of Scotland, that's perhaps the only thing I could get my hands on. But that translated into
flowers and the like cinnamon sticks.
Right, yeah. Exactly. All that, it kind of translates into being able to talk to people and work them out. Do you find that like when you're dealing with your clients? So for me, like, I feel like I'm like their psychologist, I'm their business partner, I'm their, like, you name it. Like, you need to wear a lot of hats. Like, are you in talking to the clients quite a bit, or is it very much you're behind the scenes managing the team doing the work, or like how does it all fit in with your role?
I do both. I both have a team that I manage, and I also talk to clients as well. I actually really like talking to clients, because most of the time, like, you know, as long as they're invested and that they really want to make these kind of impactful change, and they're not sort of like too afraid to make change, because that's such a huge thing. It's scary to make a decision if you're not sure the wrong decision could mean that you're not going to be able to meet your mortgage payment. A predictor, and I used to work mainly with large enterprise businesses, like some really, really massive heavy hitters, like your Paspaleys, your iSelects, your Simmons Group, like just massive companies, Plush, 40 Winks. And coming to Webfirm, we've got a very diverse portfolio, but a lot of those clients are small businesses, like your mom and pop stores, your family business, or just like a fantastic tradesman that's found success because through word of mouth. They're very, very good at what they do. So a lot of those kinds of conversations, they're very casual, but they're also very personable. One of the clients that we have, he owns a catering business, and like their budget is shoestring, and I think there are a number of reasons for that. I think like where they are, they're not in the main CBD, so distance for them to be able to convince someone to go to their location, or for them to go out to go and visit them for taste testing and things like that, there's a challenge that makes it very difficult for them versus their competitors. Again, the shoestring budget, their website doesn't look as fancy as the other ones because they can't pay for those kinds of upgrades. So for a client like that, it's very, very personal for them to be able to say, like, to me, we really hear what you're saying, but we literally don't have the money to be able to do this redesign, to be able to make all these UX changes. And I think, that's again where the creativity comes in, and where I might spend a bit of time to just do some very, very quick changes in their HTML or CSS, things that I can do to be able to influence their site. And what happened with that client was they were having just such a poor landing experience. We'd done every optimization. The site was running extraordinarily quickly. We were punching out fantastic articles around that that basically told everyone everything that they needed to know about that topic, and they all linked back to this wonderful primary page, but they weren't converting on it. So I literally went in and redesigned the page, and put some call to action buttons on there, and within quite literally a few weeks, we had a 300% increase in their conversion rate. And it's just little things like that. It's trying to figure out, well, we're doing all the right things. We're placing you in where you need to be, but people are just not able to actually physically do anything when they actually get to the page. And of course, we're spending money, in PPC trying to take people there. So it's kind of again, all those decisions, we're looking
it's
at
8:45.
We can see we're retaining users. That's great, but we're not getting new users. So let's make content that actually serves all the search intent around that, and link all that back to that page. You're not doing so well in your engagement. Well, social media will create some engagement around doing a taste testing special, which you'll go to this particular area where they're having lots and lots of wedding conventions and things like that. So you can go and do those kinds of taste testing. All those kinds of things have very creative answers to them. And if the client really trusts you to help them make those decisions and just decide whoa, is this worth my time? those are the kinds of wins that we can get after really just trying to like disseminate like where is the problem that is really blocking you. And it's that like that in itself like is really, really fantastic, especially when it comes from someone with such a small budget with a lot more emotional weight behind whether it's going to work or not. So,
yeah, I bet. Like I love seeing the if they've got tiny little budgets. I find that those clients are much harder to deal with, but just because of the like level of personal investment. But I remember someone saying that like creativity is kind of born out of restrictions. When you've got unlimited possibilities, unlimited spend, things like that, it's actually can be a negative. Like someone drew me a picture of, imagine you're standing in the middle of a round room and all around the walls are all these doors. If all the doors are open and they're all pulling you out of the room, then you actually stay completely still because the extreme choice creates inertia. So if you start closing doors, you actually start zooming to some of the open ones. So I really love that as a concept, being able to take, you know, no budget or little budget and just be creative with it and kind of move it forward.
Absolutely.
And so some of the stuff that you've been seeing over the last, let's say, couple of weeks, couple of months, how the algorithm's behaving. So someone who's like kind of bleeding edge of this stuff, what are you seeing out there? Is like anything that we should be looking out for, or anywhere we should kind of keep an eye on over the kind of coming weeks and months?
I mean, there's always Barry Schwartz is wonderful for like as soon as there's like the mere whisper that's happening within the halls of like all the Google webmasters and things like that. He's very, very amazing to announce that or to, you know, put in his 2 cents. So I pay a lot of attention to that. But the thing that I'm seeing quite a lot more is the payoff of making sure that we're on top of putting a lot of structured data, like for a lot of our clients. With one of our clients, midway through last year, for all their articles, I put schema on every single article and made sure that their authors were all legitimate people that were thought leaders in their industry. And like a couple of those authors since have sort of had quite a few other articles being published with their names against them. And like we're starting to see these things sort of popping up as like research in the SERP, and I'm like, oh, I haven't really seen that before, but this is awesome. Like, you know, we did this ages ago and no one else was doing it, and I was like, it didn't really have any effect, but cool. You know, I'm glad we did it. That's awesome. But I'm sort of seeing like more of this this entity indexing, like of more videos, more images, more articles, more like lists, like FAQs are a huge thing that they've like recently pushed. And I think if you're on top of like structured data and thinking about how that's going to influence, because of course, as everyone's been talking about for the longest time now, like mobile first indexing is 100% here, and I think that it's only going to really build a momentum. So, you know, how do you sort of hedge your bets as to, you know, be ahead of that curve? Well, they've literally said, like, this is the language that we've made universal across a lot of the different search platforms. JSON LD is an immensely powerful script language that they have templates and wonderful, like, long-form blog articles to be able to make something a little bit more bespoke for the company. And you know, as long as you're not doing it incorrectly, they will tell you. There's some fantastic payoffs that you can see. And again, like, there's some chatter as to whether, you know, people just see that and not actually visit the page. I always think, well, if they are seeing something of value that they've really been able to take away, but they haven't clicked, but they've seen the brand name against that piece of information that gave them value, is that not creating some kind of authority around your brand? And is that not something that a lot of thought leaders and even Google themselves have sort of said like that they're very much more interested in the legitimacy of information, the push up of brands that are known to have that kind of credibility and authority in their particular industry. Is that not what we're trying to do here? And I think that's again why long form content is just really just taken over and dominated like a lot of the above folds of, of page one. So yeah, it's interesting to think about that. And yeah, when we saw those little research articles sort of pop up, that was like a really nice like affirmation of, oh, what we're doing here is working. And you know, to hell whether like competitors are doing it or not, like let's keep like influencing this in the strategy and keep like having the team be on top of putting that where we really think that they're going to get the most benefit from, to be able to have that information being put in front of people with their branding. So yeah, that's really, really nice.
I love the fact that you said you went to schema and knowledge panel stuff. The reason being, you know, when you get those 2019 roundups of like, you know, what's the major ranking factors for 2019? I just like winding people up and saying, oh, it's brand is the only ranking factor. And that's always been like my go-to thing. But if you break down what that actually means, do you read a lot of the search rater guidelines and stuff like that? Do you follow any of Marie Haynes' stuff about EAT and all that? Because like, as you're talking there, I'm like, yeah, brand authority and trust, like that's a massive one. How are you building that into your client site? So obviously you're putting the schema on there so you can tell Google what the entities are, things of that nature. So for these mom and pop shops that sometimes come in on these shoestring budgets, is there any obvious things we need to be thinking about so that when Google sees them, they're not just thinking, these are words on a page, they're not connected to a business? Like, is there anything that we can do there to connect the dots?
Yeah, Marie Haynes is, again, like an incredible thought leader. Follow her avidly on Twitter. I don't know, I love to just read as much as I can and love to listen to webinars, podcasts and things like that. To sort of like just get like a sense of what other people are doing, because again, I'm just curious. But I think a lot of it depends, just to kind of use Jenny Halaz's very overused but very apt answer to this. It depends on the business. It depends on what the kind of things that they sell or the kind of services that they offer. Where is that attention for their target audience? What is going to be the most important? Now, for that particular business, they're operating in managed services, and it's such a niche kind of distinct thing that they do that a lot of people, when they go and look for that, they're looking for scholarly articles. And it's we just found that like the more high level scholarly articles that were out there had like a real massive following of being able to like find out more information about how it works. And well, we thought, well, if that's where all the intention is for that audience, well, we want to make sure that like each of the articles that we're getting, literally the CEO was writing, we want to make sure that he has some weight behind that. And for him, he would go out and do like a lot of lectures, a lot of talks, and would go out and we were just like, well, how are we going to utilize that? And that's sort of where it sort of led to. Again, for like if you have a restaurant, you want to make sure that all your information is going to be popping up when people are looking for like Uber Eats, or when they're looking up on Google Maps and they're trying to find out whether you've got a menu that's attached to that, not just a website. Well, we want to that's just really thinking about how are users finding out the information that is the most important to them. So again, like putting that up, putting recipes up there, that's another huge one. And just trying to make it so that it is the most appealing to users so that they'll have more incentive to be able to click that and find value and then associate that value with the brand. So yeah, it really kind of depends to who we're working with and where their particular audience is.
And that's like the universal SEO answer, right? It depends, because it does. It really depends.
Yeah, 100%. And it sounds a little bit like a bit of a cop-out, but I mean, there's just so many different examples that I can draw from, that sometimes like what works for one client just doesn't work for another. And,
absolutely.
I just don't like the set and forget. I don't like the the impulsive kind of like, something's gone wrong, we need to like run around and do the thing. I like to have planning. I like to think about what's happening before it happens, and if I can sort of like mitigate any of that stress, then it means that for like the account manager going out to the client and like reaffirming what we're doing and why, and that there is a pathway, like it gives that kind of confidence that we know that like seasonality, they might have like less traffic in Easter because a lot of people go away, or we can hedge their bets that a lot of people will buy more, for like just right before or even after like major like end of financial year. So these are things that I like to think about and just make sure that it's going to be the right thing for that client at the right time, and just plan for it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like I love the idea of being reactive to a lot of things. So just like putting it out into the world and letting the search engines decide and the users decide what's going on, and then acting off the back of it, but planning as much as possible. Someone said when it came to like how to do SEO, I heard a great phrase. They said, how long does it take to read a book? And I'm like, oh right, it's completely different from person to person, book to book, and it's the same obviously for search. We do like tons and tons of link building stuff over here at Type A. Like, do you guys get involved in any of the link stuff at all?
Yeah, we'll form like fairly natural citations with like if there's like a directory that is relevant to their business, and we've got quite a few here in Australia. But other than that, I don't really do any link building at all. Like I've got like a team that focuses on content, and we might do some reach out to like a couple of other businesses that we find that is the most relevant, that has a highly relevant audience, and sort of like bridge that gap. But otherwise, like, I find that just putting out really, really high value content, diversifying that kind of media, again using schema to be able to like put that into the search engine results page, to kind of like fill up all that like lovely real estate. I think that in itself yields some pretty fantastic organic results as it is. So I don't really focus on that, and I almost like kind of have to really stop people sometimes when they're like, oh well, if we just get a ton of backlinks, like how I understand backlinks, they're like, they're votes for us, we're like a campaign manager, like you're my campaign manager, and I'm the politician, and I want you to get me as many votes of confidence.
Yeah.
It's 9 hours.
And that's fine, but if any of those votes are spammy, then I'm just gonna have to really hit that Google disavow tool pretty hard.
Absolutely. They're so dangerous now, and ever since Penguin became real time, we're really starting to see excuse me, like a lot more of that stuff. And the way that we talk about it with people is we differentiate. We love Majestic, so we use trust flow and citation flow. So a lot of these guys, when you're building those links, there's no problem with citation flow. So raw power, never a problem. Trust though, that's so hard to do because it's only from seed set of websites that Google's crawling and all that stuff. The way I like to think of it is think of like a gangster. When you're talking about the voting, who in society has got extreme power but no trust? gangsters. You don't want to be doing that.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I just find that the whole thing totally fascinating. So looking at the kind of link graph stuff, are you jumping in and actively disavowing things and things of that nature if there's like some really old school stuff in there, or is it very much we're actually going to take care of technical problems first? And I know you're going to say it depends. If they have a penalty, we'll look at links. And so do you actively disavow, or do you ignore that stuff?
Sometimes, in some cases, I actively disavow. I'll go through and I'll use Ahrefs, I'll use SEMrush to be able to give me a good idea as to the toxicity of these links. Again, Majestic is a fantastic tool to be able to see the citation flow and the trust flow, and that kind of like works in ratio of one another. But it's kind of like, well, if this is not in the same industry and it's clearly not giving me any traffic that is useful, then what is the long-term point to have that? If it is showing up as far as Google is concerned, like a very, very spammy link towards a particular page or the home page. So in those kinds of instances, I'll go in and I'll have like a couple of my team members like going through and checking these links to make sure that this is legitimate, or if it's just pure spam. And then we'll have just a long list, and each one of those has its particular score and a little bit of a note next to it. Sometimes we'll do this en masse, because there have been some times where we've had like backlink profiles in their hundreds of thousands. We sort of look at this and just go, oh my. How are we going to get through all this? So we'll look at the title, and we'll look at something that makes sense, and just decide, well, this is just not worth it. So the first point of action is to and again, SEMrush is really, really great for this, because it has a tool that will send out emails that they'll generate for you to say, like, hey, we're doing a bit of a cleanup. If you were real, if you were legitimate, this is just what's going on. And if this is something that you want to discuss, please let us know. As like a precautionary measure, but otherwise, we will take that list and we'll go to Google and we'll disavow those. And then indicate to Google that we've at least tried to outreach to them, and that that has failed, and it doesn't look like something that is of value. So we're trying to actively do something to say, we do not associate with this very, very spammy backlink.
Got you. So like, I get that the time is ticking on. I'm really conscious that it's your Friday night, and I'm so grateful for you doing this at this time of night. Just before you go, imagine. So I'm fascinated by this. Let's pretend that we're right back at the start of search. Now I've got $500 in my pocket. What are you going to tell me? And I've got a site. It's got some articles on it. It's all fine. No, I'm ranking okay. What would you tell me to do as a small business owner to transform the way, or how would you get me to invest my budget to see the biggest uplift? And let's say I'm in the catering industry.
Right.
What am I doing?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I haven't really thought about like the breakdown. Like with that particular client, I just decided to use my own time to stay back and do a lot. Like, I've completely fixed their internal linking profile, added call to action buttons in myself. I use Visual Composer to change the layout of those landing pages. And
Visual Composer, what's that?
It's a WordPress plugin that's really nice and easy to be able to move around elements quite easily. So you can have like a You can have gravity forms in there. You can have little sliders to be able to like show information. You can have tabs. You can have images, text boxes. You can have columns, and all of that's really, really lovely and responsive when you're going from mobile to desktop. So that's a really, really nice plugin. But if I had $500, I really don't know how to answer that, because contracts and marking out my time. If I really care, like, I don't know, SEO is like my life, and I don't mind spending obviously my Friday nights and sometimes like a weekend just thinking about these problems. Yeah, I would probably, again, I would do a quick crawl of their site. I would use, if they're giving me their access to their GA and GSC and GTM and things like that. I'll have a look at what they've got. API link that with Screaming Frog. Try and figure out where is the glaring issues of that. I've got a SEMrush account, so I might do like a very quick technical audit of that, because again, $500 isn't really going to get you too much of the time. And just sort of like show like if there is anything that is really, really glaring that we need to address first. The assumptions I'm assuming is that your sitemap is in order, you've got an SSL certificate, you've got robots.txt not blocking anything too important internally or externally. You've got links that like go for hamburger menu to be able to find your pages. Yeah, it's hard, but if assuming that all of those things are working quite well and intuitively with each other, then I'd probably look at GT metrics and see how their site speed is going. I would be looking at whether the keywords are matching the right intent for when someone is searching, and I would probably just decide like, okay, for all the important pages along that purchase funnel experience, what are the seed keywords of that we're going to be able to go after? Is this satisfying all the questions that someone wants to know about that? And if not, we'll add them.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think that in itself is probably like, I don't know, how much does $500 buy? I don't know. I don't think too carefully about that.
It doesn't buy anything, does it? Yeah. One of the things that when people ask me that, I'm like, take all of your staff down to the pub and come up with some ideas for content and just start building the site out, because for $500 you can't do a lot. But that was a very good cogent answer. So what are you up to for the rest of the evening then? Do you live far from the office? Do you commute a lot, or are you just gonna head out, meet some friends, or what's the plan? Got a gig later potentially?
I was actually gonna hop on my bike and ride home, because I only live about 30 minutes bike ride in sort of like the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and have some dinner. And I kind of wanted to have a bit of a chill night. I also love doing drawing art, so I was going to draw some art and maybe put on a film in the background or listen to a podcast. So a very kind of like low-key night for me tonight, I think.
That sounds absolutely perfect. All these maniacs that go to nightclubs, I'm just like, why? Why? All right, well, have a lovely evening, and thank you so much for coming on. If anybody wants to follow up with you, where can they find you? Are you on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. LinkedIn's probably like the easiest way. You can find me on Nik Ranger or via Webfirm, and just pop me a DM. I've got a couple of people who follow me and sometimes just drop me a line and ask questions. And if I have the time, I just like to help and share value. Either that or I go to the SEO meetups here in Melbourne quite often, where I might do like a talk, or I might be just there just to hang out and chat shop. Or I'm on Twitter at Dada Ono, which is actually my band name, and I kind of hijacked the band account to just chat SEO, and now it's sort of got its own little momentum and following. Now I'm like, I probably should have branded that to like my name or like something else. But anyway, it's my band's Twitter that also just is like this weird SEO nerd who just like chimes in on other people's tweets for SEO. But yeah, LinkedIn, Nik Ranger, Webfirm, that's the easiest place to find me.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to go spend the rest of my day trying to find some of your music. So because we only work 4 days and this is a Friday, no one's in the office apart from me. So I'm just going to be blasting the Sonos. If I can find any of your music, I'm just going to blast it.
Go for it. I recommend listening to Bitter Taste Paradise of our last album called Granny Loves Smith.
Oh, that's a nice name. Granny Loves Smith. All right. I'm going to Google that right now. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll hopefully see you soon. If you're ever the other side of the world, or if I'm ever the other side of the world, I hope to see you in real life pretty soon.
Drop a line. It'd be lovely to meet you in person. Thank you so much for your time, Ross, and I really look forward to your next SEM Rush webinar.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. See you later.
All the best. Ciao.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Searching the City. Please do subscribe to this podcast. It is available everywhere that podcasts are a thing.